and again, we speculated yesterday, depending on how the game went last night, that Jrue Holiday was a significant contender to be the MVP of this series, the Eastern Conference Final MVP award, which, as we point out yesterday, is the Larry Bird Trophy. But in the end, it goes to Jaylen Brown. How about him? So many questions about him over the course of time. Is he one? Is he 1A? All those things. He said it himself last night. He was mad he wasn't on the All-NBA team. He said last night, I never win anything, so I was surprised to be the MVP. How about him being the one that gets recognized as they head to the final?
I love to see the fact that he gets recognized. He was probably the most consistent player in this series. Talk about the first game and the big three that he made, and if he doesn't make that three, this is a completely different series. I love the fact that a guy that doesn't talk a lot, who's quiet, finally gets some praise. He's a hell of a basketball player, second fiddle to Jayson Tatum, but he's a great player as well. So I love the fact that he got this. It was 4-5. It could have been either way.
Let's also recognize the fact that in the finals that they were in previously, he was their best player. So he steps up in the biggest moments,
yes,
even if he might be considered second fiddle to Jayson Tatum.
You know the best part about second fiddle or who's the best player? None of that matters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, UD, your time to step up, go crush it. Oh, Allen, your time to go step up. That's how Boston plays.
Yes.
And at the end of the day,
yes,
it's about winning a championship, not defining who the team's best player is.
Here's where it matters. It matters when one of them, Windy, is on the first team All-NBA and the other one doesn't make any of the All-NBA teams. Now, I'll remind everyone, Jaylen Brown made All-NBA last year, and that was when it really mattered because it triggered his Supermax, so he got paid
$286.
all the money in the world, plus $10. So he's doing just fine. But I do think, and you could tell it bothered him. Right, Windy? You could tell it bothered him not to be recognized as one of the 15 best players in the NBA at the end of the season. Something that I think, well, I voted for him, Windy. I know you voted for him. Something we believe he definitively was.
Yeah, he finished 16th, by the way. He finished 16th, which obviously is not the place you want to be in, but it's not like nobody respected him. The look on his face in this game after he got that award said it all. He said the other day he didn't care about awards because he had got to win the series. That's probably true, but he did really appreciate this. And I want to say this. Jayson Tatum in this series, do you know what he did? He averaged 30 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists. It's the second Celtic in the history of the Celtics franchise, which has played a couple of playoff series. I don't know if you're aware. Wow. Only the second player ever to do that is a Celtic, and the other one was Larry Bird. So while Tatum definitely can play better, especially shooting percentage-wise, Tatum had an awesome series too, and that's important to keep in mind going forward.
Are we not giving the Celtics enough credit?
Yes.
The Celtic fan.
We are not.
Finish that thought, please.
Every time I hear people talk about them, it's like, well, Jimmy Butler was hurt. Well, you talk about Donovan Mitchell was hurt. Jared Allen was hurt.
But those things are true.
Yeah, that's all fact, though, Jay.
Those things are true, but it's almost like it's used against them to diminish them only losing 2 games. It's like, it's all these questions. And granted, look, every team, you can only play the teams in front of you. Yeah. It's going to be one hell of a series against Dallas if Dallas is able to get by Minnesota, which we all think they will. But it's like that gets used against them in this narrative instead of actually just saying they're taking care of business.
I mean, I think we just expected a more dominant, series in this Indiana series. Obviously, when Hallenberg went out, and we expected them to just kind of run through these guys and win by 15 or 20 and be a little more definitive and decisive with the way they win the basketball games. But I mean, Indiana left the front door open, the back door, the window, the sliding glass door, the garage door. I mean, every door was open for the Celtics just to walk through after 48 minutes.
In your mind, was this more a case of a series that the Celtics wrestled away, or was this the case of a series the Pacers gave away?
I got to say the Pacers gave it away. I mean, when you talk about playoff basketball, it's a possession game. It gets down to the last 2 minutes of the game, and I understand that your best version is to play fast. I understand that your best version is to get it off the glass and move the defense, but you have to have something in your package where you slow it down, you get into the dynamics of it, and you attack certain guys, and you get the shot that you want every time. And Jay Will made a great point. They might not have that package in their offense right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so look, at the end of the day, I give Indiana a lot of credit for playing without Tyrese Halliburton. But like UD and I were talking about before, they're not great executing down the stretch. because of how fast they play. That all of a sudden you want to slow them down and attack certain matchups. That's not how they think. They're programmed to think fast, to play fast, and you become erratic when you play that way. So we're seeing certain things in these tape breakdowns. We're like, hold on a second. That's where Boston lives. Boston is good executing down the stretch.
Yes.
Today, I know we're going to say Indiana gave away a lot of games, which they did, but also Boston out-executed them down the stretch. If you think about that Jaylen Brown corner three, how the hell did Jaylen Brown get open for a corner three? Because they miscommunicate. They can't communicate. They have all these small slip-ups that accumulate over time.
Well, the tone was set for the series on that play. You're talking about the very end of regulation of Game 1. That's why Brown wins the MVP, because the whole series turns around on that shot. If that shot does it for all the things Indiana did wrong, and they did everything wrong in the final 30 seconds of that game, if Brown doesn't make what remains a very tough shot, Indy has a 1-0 lead, and who knows? I mean, everything is completely different than the way it turned out.
You know, one thing going into the playoffs in the East that we were talking about with the weaknesses of the Celtics or trying to find them is that you would make the argument that all the different coaches that Joe Mazzulla would have to go up against have more experience than him. Maybe Bickerstaff was the only one that wasn't in that category. But, I mean, you're talking about, again, Tom Thibodeau and Eric Spoelstra and obviously Rick Carlisle, guys that have been there and done that. And I think he outcoached Rick Carlisle in this series. You got to give Joe Mazzulla credit for doing that, because down the stretch, it's not just player execution, it is coaching execution, and he had himself a terrific series.
Wow, Rick Carlisle is an excellent coach.
Yeah, great coach.
He had a very bad series. There's just no two ways about it. Game 1 and Game 3, and then last night, his team was not ready. They scored 0 points in the final 3 minutes of the of the game last night, and thus of their season. Windy again live in Dallas covering the West for us. Overriding thoughts here. Celtics, they do what they need to do, but Indy's going to have a long summer.
Yeah, Indiana is a team of mistakes. I've said this before. The way they play is just prone to make a lot of mistakes, and they cover up for it because they play so many possessions that it allows them to recover. And Boston is a team that will punish you for your mistakes. I would argue that if this was a best of 21, we would probably see this game play out in some form over and over because of the way these two teams are structured, and that was powerfully driven home. And it does leave me to just wonder in the back of my head. I've been watching for the last week a team of precision at the end of games in Dallas. They've been a team of precision at the end of games for several months now, so we potentially have something coming very exciting. But in this moment, it was easy to find the Indiana mistakes, but you also have to applaud the Celtics because all of their players contributed to these victories that they won at the end of these games.
The one thing that Boston had that Indiana didn't have, I mean, and look, we're going to talk about Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown a lot. Yo, Derek White and Drew Holiday.
Oh, my gosh.
Game managers.
Oh, my gosh.
Legit, like defensively, when is Derek White ever out of position?
Oh, my God.
And then Drew Holiday just always sticks his nose in things. Even on that last switch, the player broke down hour 1. Indiana doesn't have players like that can think through games down the stretch and be game managers.
I mean, you can argue that Derek White was the best player in the Heat series for Boston. I mean, he totally killed us and took us out of everything that we wanted to do offensively because he can get over, he can get under, he can get through pick and rolls, and he does not miss open shots.
You could argue that the Bucks trading for Damian Lillard was the best thing that happened to the Boston Celtics.
Yep.
Agreed.
When you thought in that moment when they made that trade, you thought to yourself, oh, wow, like the Bucks have made a statement. Boston just lost a guy like Marcus Smart. How are you going to have somebody? And they were able to get him. He wanted to go to Boston. That changed everything.
Well, I know a lot of people were probably out of their regular routine yesterday. Maybe you weren't with us, but you were making the point. You and your Heat organization, you played the Celtics 14 times in the playoffs the last 2 years to an absolute standstill. 7 wins on each side. But this team is different, and what is the reason it's different?
Drew Holiday. I mean, you can argue that it's Porzingis, but in my opinion, it's Drew Holiday. You have a guy who's won championships. He knows what it takes to win a championship. He's a dog, and he's also going to sacrifice and do whatever he needs to win. On the offensive end, he's going to get down in that short block, let everybody spray for threes, and on defense, he's going to guard whoever he needs to guard, and even switch 1 through 5 if he has to guard a big man.